Welcome to Crimes Beyond Borders, where we'll bring you the most thrilling true crime stories every single day. If you're fascinated by mystery, intrigue, and the darker side of human nature, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us as we unravel the most shocking and perplexing criminal cases from around the world. The story is about to begin after this intro.
From city streets to far-off lands, mystery slipping through our hands. Crimes beyond borders they speak, voices strong but words are meek. Every story leaves a mark, whispers softly in the dark.
Our stories at first are made for ourselves, to comfort us, to help us sleep, and to learn. Along the way, they become a part of our journey, teaching us English and fueling our passion for true crime. So, listen carefully, and if you're about to sleep, close your eyes. Let's begin. One of the most searched and currently discussed true crime cases involves the tragic murder of a 6-year-old boy in Bridgeport, Connecticut. In late September 2024, Abdul Rahim Suleiman was arrested for attacking a woman and her 2 children, ages 6 and 4, with a baseball bat in a brutal domestic violence incident. Neighbors intervened and managed to save the woman and her younger child, but the 6-year-old boy later succumbed to his injuries in the hospital. It was a quiet evening in Bridgeport, Connecticut, one of those nights when the world seems to slow down and the chaos of life takes a moment to rest. But that night, September 25th, 2024, would shatter that calm. Inside a modest apartment on Main Street, terror was brewing. A terror that would leave a family broken and a community in disbelief. Multiple 911 calls came in from terrified neighbors, their voices barely able to describe the scene unfolding just next door. Something was terribly wrong. The sounds of a struggle, screams of panic, and a repetitive thud, the unmistakable sound of metal crashing against flesh. It was a baseball bat. A man was inside, attacking a woman and her 2 children. The police raced to the scene, lights flashing, sirens wailing, but by the time they arrived, the damage had been done. Inside the apartment, chaos reigned. Blood splattered the walls, furniture overturned, and lying on the floor, struggling to breathe, were a mother and her 2 young sons, ages 6 and 4. The attacker? Gone. Fled into the night like a phantom, leaving behind only devastation. The officers on the scene could barely process what they were seeing. The aftermath of a brutal attack, one fueled by rage but also something darker, something more terrifying. What could drive a man to such senseless violence? The woman was barely conscious, her 4-year-old son miraculously still alive but in critical condition. But the 6-year-old boy? He was clinging to life by a thread. Paramedics rushed the family to the hospital, working desperately to save them. But deep down, everyone knew the boy's chances were slim. His injuries were too severe. The doctors did all they could, but 2 days later, on October 2nd, 2024, the young boy succumbed to his injuries. His life, filled with so much promise, was violently stolen. And who was responsible for this? His name was Abdul Rahim Suleiman, a 38-year-old man with a long history of violence. He had fled the scene that night, but not for long. The police, already on high alert, tracked him down within hours, apprehending him before he could disappear completely. As they brought him into custody, the community hoped for answers, but the horror was just beginning to unfold. Abdul Rahim Suleiman wasn't just a man with anger issues. He was a walking storm of violence. His past was littered with crimes that painted a picture of someone who had been dangerous for a long time. 7 years in a New Jersey prison for aggravated assault, violations of protective orders, assaulting police officers, and yet he was free, out on probation. A ticking time bomb, and that night in Bridgeport, the bomb had gone off. Neighbors who had intervened in the attack, those brave enough to step between Suleiman and the family, had told stories of a madman, completely unhinged, wielding that baseball bat with terrifying precision. They had saved the mother and her younger son, but they couldn't stop the worst from happening. The 6-year-old had been caught in the crossfire, an innocent victim of a man's uncontrollable rage. The charges against Suleiman quickly escalated. Originally arrested for attempted murder, his rap sheet grew after the boy's death. First-degree murder was added to the list, and with it, a $10 million bond was set, ensuring that Suleiman would remain behind bars. But even jail couldn't contain his violence. During a court appearance, Suleiman once again lashed out, this time attacking a judicial marshal. It seemed that the darkness inside him could not be contained, not even within the walls of a prison. But what about the family? The mother and her 4-year-old son, though physically alive, were left shattered. Their home, once filled with laughter and love, was now a crime scene. The memory of that night would haunt them forever. How do you move forward from such a tragedy? How do you rebuild after losing a child in such a horrific way? The community of Bridgeport struggled to come to terms with what had happened. It wasn't just a tragedy for one family, it was a failure of the system. How had this man with such a violent past been allowed to walk free? How could someone with so many warnings, so many red flags, be out on probation? The outrage was palpable. People demanded answers, demanded change. Domestic violence, a plague that often hides behind closed doors, had exploded into public view in the most horrific way imaginable. As Suleiman sits in jail awaiting trial, the story continues to unfold. The legal system, the same system that had allowed him to walk free once before, now seeks to bring him to justice. But what does justice look like in a case like this? A young boy's life was taken, a mother's heart broken, and a community left scarred. For Abdulrahim Suleiman, the road ahead is grim. His trial looms large, with charges that could see him spend the rest of his life in prison. But for the family, there can never truly be justice. No sentence, no punishment can bring back what they have lost. As the days pass and the trial inches closer, the people of Bridgeport wait. They wait for a verdict, wait for closure. But deep down, they know that no courtroom decision can erase the horror of that night. The baseball bat murder, as it's now known, has left an indelible mark on their community, a grim reminder of the darkness that can exist even in the most unexpected places. And so, the story continues. A tale of senseless violence, of a system that failed, and of a community that will never forget. The memory of that 6-year-old boy, his life cut tragically short, will live on, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the evil that can lurk just down the hall. No, the story doesn't end here. This tragedy is only the beginning of a long, grueling journey towards justice, healing, and accountability. The community of Bridgeport now waits for the trial to begin, watching closely to see how the legal system will respond to such a horrific crime. The family, broken by the loss of their son, faces a future filled with grief and unanswered questions. For the mother and her surviving child, every day is a reminder of what they endured, and the shadow of that night will follow them for the rest of their lives. The court proceedings, as they unfold, will likely bring new revelations. More about Abdulrahim Suleiman's past may come to light, and the system that allowed him to remain free despite his violent history will be scrutinized. Questions will be asked. How was someone like him allowed to continue his cycle of violence unchecked? Could this tragedy have been prevented? The media will follow the case, and the community will keep demanding answers, demanding changes to the system that failed this family. And for those who knew the young boy, his memory will linger, a painful reminder of how quickly life can be taken by violence. No, this isn't the end. It's just the beginning of a long, painful fight for justice and change, a fight that will shape the lives of everyone involved. As the trial approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher, and the hope is that justice, however incomplete, will finally be served. But in the world of true crime, stories like this one don't really have an end. The ripples of that one terrible night will continue to affect all who were touched by it for years to come. The story has come to an end, but stay relaxed. If you feel yourself drifting off to sleep, just let the video play and enjoy the soothing music in the background. Let it guide you gently into rest. We'll be here, bringing you more stories every night. Sleep well, and see you tomorrow at 8 p.m.